All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of My Story Unveiled. It's my absolute pleasure to have with me on this episode Xavi Sotomayor.
Yes,
Have
sir.
I got that right?
Yeah. 100%.
An individual that has a beautiful, very, very great eye for all things art and creativity. I've seen you around the Lighthouse, where obviously this podcast is being produced and recorded, and it was an absolute pleasure to meet you and connect a little bit. First and foremost, thank you for being so willing to be on the My Story Unveiled podcast, and we're ready to jump in and see what you're all about. Ask you a few questions, and if you're willing to get a little personal about yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm excited. It's been great to get to know you here in the building, and I look forward to have a conversation, man. Thanks for having me.
Killer, dude. All right, well, without further ado, we're gonna get right into it. Awesome, dude. So as I kind of explained, there's almost really like no rules with this podcast. I wanted to do something that allows for it to be like a very, very kind of like open feel. We really don't even need to have a structure. Have kind of like a concept, and pretty much it's up to you however much information you want to give, whatever you're comfortable with. So I usually just start out asking a few like basic questions, like tell us a little bit of background information on yourself, and we just kind of like lead up your kind of life journey up into where you are now. So we'll just jump right in. Xavi, who are you? Give us a little background information, a little bit of history maybe, where you're from and stuff, and yeah.
Okay, cool. So my name is Xavi. I'm originally born in Quito, Ecuador, South America, right on the equator. Something magical about that. I obviously haven't gotten to explore there as much as the United States, but I believe that even that had some sort of impact on who I am. Just a completely different longitude, latitude that I was born in. And there's some cool supernatural things that happen down there as far as like, it's the middle of the world, right? The equator goes down the center of the hemisphere, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually a line drawn at this tourist spot down there where if you're on one side of it, the water in the toilet goes down one way.
Oh, no
and
way.
If you step across literally 1 foot this way, it goes the other way.
That's wild.
So, along with other, kind of like special things with the area, needless to say, just like a beautiful culture of great people.
That's super cool, dude. Would you say you still feel connected to your roots somewhat, even though you obviously live in the US, and I imagine you grew up for the most part here in the US? Do you feel connected to your culture, where you're from?
Yeah. I was really, really lucky. For a million reasons to have the parents that I do. But one of the big reasons was that even after we immigrated to the States, we were living in Indiana. My parents still live there. But obviously they maintained a hold on the culture and the traditions as much as possible, right? Like I would go to school and it'd be one culture, and I'd go home and it'd be a completely different culture. But even when I was little, my mom, she'd make me read all the folklore in Spanish, talk in Spanish. To this day, I speak in Spanish with my parents. So I feel incredibly lucky to have that, because I think that is the through line to my roots. And even just English being my second language, which happened pretty easy for me because when we immigrated here, I was 5.
Gotcha.
So learning English was just natural because you're a kid, right?
Sure.
But I do think there's some brilliance to having 2 languages inside of my mind, and even just being able to see things differently based on language is pretty cool too. And I didn't pay attention to it as much as I have nowadays, where there's some real wisdom to understanding where certain words come from and what they mean and why they mean certain things. And sometimes we just take it for granted, like, you know, without really thinking, wait, why do I say good morning in the morning and then morning means something sad?
Oh yeah.
You know, or like just I think having that second language in my head allowed me to kind of like cross-check a little bit.
Dude, it's so interesting. We can really go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. So if this is where this conversation is meant to go, then that's where it's meant to go. But like, I think about this stuff like all the time, and I'm very much like a philosopher myself. But just to your point on, like mourning, like if you think to mourn someone, it's usually associated with things like funerals or when people pass, and we're mourning, you know, the passing of someone. So I've had these crazy, like, you know, ideas in my head. Well, okay, like when we're asleep in the dream world, is that more of like a real existence? So we go into planes and dimensions. Is that more of our real self, you know? Is that our soul, I don't know, astral traveling, as it commonly would be known? Is that actually our reality? And then when we come back to this like body and wake up, and we, you know, we awake to our morning, I'm like, is this what we are kind of taught as, and, you know, to be known as reality? Is this actually some just crazy kind of trip that we're living through? So those are kind of things like I think where my mind goes when I hear things like that. So language it's so interesting. It's funny as well because I'm quite fascinated by other languages too. I studied like Sanskrit a little bit, just being quite spiritual, and I do like a little bit of like research into like Vedic stuff, and I really got into like mantras, and a lot of them are in Sanskrit. But it's interesting how English became like the universal language, but I feel like there's such actually like a magic in other very like indigenous languages and stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's magic in all language. I think before there was a universal language, we would communicate. We still communicate with energy. I think energy usually transcends and makes people feel what you're actually saying much quicker than the words. Just a lot of people aren't tuned into that sort of exchange. But I do think when you speak, you should never take that lightly. So as I'm getting older and being able to observe certain things, I try not to, I try not to, I guess I'm trying to be more intentional about every aspect of the statements that I make without even thinking. So,
That makes a lot of sense for sure. Because I know we've had some really cool conversations as well, where we'll like kind of share like different like wisdom and stuff. And I know there's actually a power in like, you know, how you talk and the words you say, and people even say things like, what you speak, it's almost like casting spells and things like that, or the whole law of attraction thing. So going back what you were saying also about like speaking in energy, it's like a real thing, and how you do conduct yourself, whether in your speech or your actions and your energy, it really depends on, you know, what you're gonna get back, almost that like karmic effect to some degree, and how you might like, you know, align with something.
Yeah. I mean, the first thought that comes to mind just talking on that, I think, is the fact that mantras, words, visualizations, most practices, meditation, prayer, most practices that are internalizing our existence, all they're really getting us closer to is being able to push out the energy. And I think that energy that gets pushed out is the magnetism that we own. So if you're not careful about what you're saying, you might accidentally push out energy and feeling, our emotion, our energy, emotion, energy in motion. You might not realize that you're accidentally pushing out a magnet that's bringing you things that you would never agree to, you know, and that's why I think it's really, really, really important to observe your thoughts, observe your words, observe what you say to yourself, because as you observe those things, you can slowly take more and more control back of your energy that you're putting out. And I think a huge breakthrough for me has come in slowly putting into practice non-judgment with everything. And all that's allowing me to do better now in this stage of my life is, instead of coming in and trying to extract some form of analysis from a situation, I'm actually able to observe the situation and participate in the moment, instead of something happening, me getting pulled away from my emotional, reaction right away.
Yeah.
So as I'm able to live in good, bad, ugly, beautiful, miraculous, without judgment, I'm able to participate in those miracles much easier, because I'm not getting distracted by my opinion of what's going on, right?
I think that's an excellent, I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's almost like a good discipline to have. It's because a lot of people, we kind of react instead of respond. And, depending on obviously the nature of the situation, the circumstances, I think what you said about learning to observe it and, coming from like a non-judgmental place, a lot of what you said resonated me, because it kind of ties into spiritual practices and things that like Eastern philosophy, like Buddhism, would actually kind of recommend as practices. So it's quite interesting, because I've learned a lot on that type of stuff as well, and I think it almost helps to like reset your like demeanor as well, if you learn to actually like uphold these practices, and instead of like reacting and responding too quickly, and just kind of observing a situation, like you said, however good, bad, unfortunate, etc. I think it allows you just to have like a little bit more control in those moments, and how you kind of ultimately,
it allows you to navigate. It allows you to navigate with enough space for yourself to. You will create enough space for yourself to navigate situations. If you don't create that space for yourself and you're just quickly reacting, then you never created a moment, a cadence for you to operate in the most optimal way.
Yeah.
And I think it's even retracting, thinking that you need to. I guess the thing that I don't want to get misconstrued is the fact that you come out on top in interpersonal relationships by using this sort of tactic, you could call it, or exercise. But in a way, it's going to allow you to live more purely in the moment, which will then in turn into you being able to navigate that moment more efficiently, rather than thinking like, how do I manipulate a situation? I think it's a lot more being able to understand that the only thing you can manipulate is your own development and your own character. And as you develop those things internally, then you start to attract things that align with that frequency. So if you're 2 steps back and you're trying to manipulate situations, you're missing a few beats. But if you come in and you are saying, okay, I'm not going to judge this and I'm going to participate in the situation because I know that's how ultimately my purpose and my desires come to be, I think that's trusting and having faith that what's for you will happen from genuinely being there.
Totally.
Right. And obviously as I'm growing, I'm understanding and I'm experimenting with how I push my energy, how I communicate. So I'm not just like, there is strategy and there is discipline, but it's falling on the side of having faith, that knowing that I'm going to be taken care of, instead of that I'm going to need to make this transaction happen right here for me to benefit.
100%, dude. I like that because, if people, do believe in like, things like the universe or in a higher power, I think that if you want the universe to be able to work with you, you've got to have a certainty on either the direction you want to go in or what you want to achieve. So it kind of, you need to be quite clear on what you're trying to accomplish or do or where you're at. So that way the universe in turn can work with you on that. And it's interesting you talked about being present and in the moment, because I heard something quite a few years ago on a YouTube channel. It's quite a popular influencer. His name is Ralph Smart. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he talked about like the importance of presence. And he says, when you stuck too much in the past or you're too attached to things, like maybe like an example, like a ex-partner that broke up with you or something, just to use an example, and you're so fixated on like, oh, I hate that person or whatever, that you're actually allowing that to disrupt your present and your progress. And then, so we kind of regarded that more like it can affect you in a depressive way because you're attached like to a negative situation. And also the other end of the scale, if you are too fixated on worrying about the future, not kind of knowing what the outcome might be, that also disrupts the present and that creates anxiety. So there's a real power in what you said about being present and in the moment and just focusing all your attention with clarity into kind of what you want to see come into fruition. And when you do that, I imagine that the universe, the higher power, God, whatever you believe in, can work with you then.
Yeah, you're given, you're almost giving that salute to God or that salute to the universe, saying, hey, I have faith. Yeah. And when you put forth, like, it's like what you give is what you get in every single sense of the word. So as soon as you tell the universe, hey, I see that you got me, the universe is going to turn back and God's going to look at you and say, hey, I see that you got me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that right there is the breakthrough that most people are kind of searching for, because outside of that, life, God is going to give you how you paint that picture in your head. Mm-hmm. So if you paint it in a way that you're saying, I'm all alone out here, this is an unruly world, doggy dog world, you have to, hey, watch out, like if I get my chance, I'm gonna take it. Like if you live in that, you're gonna get that. But if you're like, if you start to participate in this more free receiving, trusting, having faith that the outcome is what you put into it, one of the most potent things I could say is God, evil, God and bad, good and bad, God and the opposite, God and fear is what I would say. All right. And the practicality of that is anytime you're scared, fear and love, God, love, fear, devil, whatever you want to call it, dynamics. Anytime you feel fear, if you can infuse love into that situation, the
eradicate.
Gone. Yeah. And the only way for you to tap into the miracles that are there for you is for when that fear hits you, can you insert love? And if you can do that, then you actually created an environment for a miracle. But if you get stuck on the fear, then you have no chance of the miracle happening. Fear is going to tell you you're on your own. Love is going to tell you you're part of everything.
Yeah.
You're like, we're all in it together. Like, it's like, trust me, what you need is coming. You know, so the most simple, like, Deep Simplicity is a book up there. I haven't read it yet, but I've read 2 chapters of it. I'm not really quoting anything from it. It just, the first page is already kind of like, and it just states that we live in this infinite possibility world where the exterior, the outside, what we are able to see and analyze has so many variables and infinite possibilities and people's internal dynamics that are creating everything.
Yeah.
So this outside seems so confusing, like, where this is all coming from. Everybody's so different. But the really, really elaborate outside is actually ran by the simplest core fundamentals. And I think the simplest core fundamental is love and fear, right? Where there's love, there's a chance for a miracle. Where there's fear, there's a chance for growth. You're still winning. So like, if there's a dynamic of spirituality and a God or a universe, can you as an individual have a godly perception on what's going on? And what I mean by that is, can you somehow view this huge problem that you think you have in your life, or this huge thing that you're going through? Can you somehow perceive that through the eyes of God? And if you were able to perceive that through the eyes of God, would he see a problem, or would he see you becoming?
Right.
He would see you becoming.
Totally.
He already understands this dynamic of, like, it's just us that would put a judgment into that being good or that being bad. But if it's God, there's no problem he can't fix. Therefore, that's passed down to us if we can align our mentality to that. And that's the whole, can we raise our awareness? Can we raise our consciousness to understand to a God consciousness? Which is like, hey, there are no problems. There's solutions, there's dynamics, there's growth.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I like what you said there. Like the first part you were explaining, I almost thought you were going to get into like a little bit of like quantum style stuff. But also what you were also saying about like the love and then like the fear side, it reminded me of a story I've heard about these 2 wolves, and it's like fear, and then it's like, you know, like kind of like success, or fear and like, you know, like happiness and joy. And like a little boy, I'm just kind of paraphrasing as well, but he said, which wolf wins? And he basically says like, the one that you feed. So if there's a power in where your mind, where your energy is going to, what's going to ultimately win and overtake you and have an effect is whichever one you feed. So do you want to feed and put all your energy into like fear and uncertainty, or do you want to, you know, like put your time, attention and energy into love, positivity? And obviously I know what side of the fence like I'm on for sure. The other day I was leaving the soccer field and we were just talking about, which one do you feed? Do you feed love or do you feed fear? And you know, that's the one that's going to survive. So I'm leaving the soccer field, and it's a Pan Pacific Park. I love that park.
Love that park. But sometimes there, you know, like anywhere else in LA, that, you know, you might run into somebody that's a homeless person, or, you know, just other people that are struggling. It's a tough city. I'm pulling out, and I look out my rear view or my side mirror, and I catch the guy, and the guy catches me, and he's like, yo, and he's like, obviously had been probably in jail, tatted up, gang, like from the neck, like the like everything, like the face, everything was just and we caught each other, and he looked at me, and he was like, I could tell he was sad, and he was like, hey bro, like, he almost just told me like, yo, I'm not gonna, like, I don't mean no, like, I won't hurt you, and you know what I'm saying? He was just like, I think he just and then I started talking to him, and he basically confirmed the fact that like, hey, everywhere I go, people judge me. I'm trying to change my life. I'm trying to be good.
100%.
And when that was happening, that came in my mind right away, where I was actually thinking like, do I feed love or do I feed fear right here?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity to feed love. And I had like a solid 15-minute conversation with this guy, tried to tell him like, it's tough too, because obviously when people are going through hard times and they've been in a certain mentality, it's hard to help them see that like, hey, even though this first half of this year was the hardest of your life, the second half could be the best. Totally. So I was trying to like feed them things like that, where I'd be like, hey, by the way, like I'm about to drive away, and I tell him, hey, bro, don't forget, like miracles around the corner. And like I saw him smile big when I said that. But just that, like that was another one where like maybe earlier a few years ago, I might have just chosen fear and been like, oh shit, like is this guy gonna mug me or something? But that didn't even come to mind. I saw him, I looked at him, I saw his human, and I was able to depict the fact that he was just hurt.
That's exactly what I was going to respond. I wanted to let you finish. Some people, they just want to be treated like humans. And I think it's fantastic that you didn't come from a place of judgment, because it sounds like he kind of felt like he needed to explain himself because he's been dealing with a lot of rejection from society. And you know, it's understandable. So even I get it, and I think I'm a pretty like friendly, approachable person. I wouldn't hurt anyone, but you know, here and there you get it. You know, it's a little extreme, the image for some people, but for me, I like it when I do get to interact with people, when I can kind of tell that they're like, oh, I'm not sure on this guy, and then they get to talk to me and I'm like, oh man, this guy's actually like pretty chill. And that's a big reason as well, like why I'm doing this podcast, because just to get that human to human connection, no judgment, anyone's welcome. Like anyone's welcome. If you feel you want to come on and talk about your story, I truly believe, regardless of what your background is, where you've come from, everyone's got certain experiences that have shaped them, and everybody has got some nuggets of wisdom that other people will find beneficial, for sure.
100%.
I wanted to ask you, I know you mentioned you moved to Indiana when you were younger, your family's still out there. When did you make the move and the jump to LA? And can you maybe like talk to me a little bit about what your inspiration was for coming out here? And then just tell me like how things have been for you since you've been in LA.
Yeah, so that's almost 15 years ago that I moved out to LA. I was a freshman in college at Indiana University. Had just quit soccer, which was like the first love of my life, the thing that I kind of wanted to do more than anything. Still kind of wish I would do that, but nothing else, you know?
What was your reason for quitting, if you don't mind me asking?
Just at a certain point, you're in college and people start to plant things in your head like, how are you going to make a living from that? And like, you know, and then you look around and there's like an entire campus of buildings created for people to like quote unquote prepare themselves to do something that they can get paid for. And like at the time, me and my sister were going to be the first of our family to graduate from college anyway, so part of me is only in there really for my parents too, like for my mom, like just because they're trying to give me that as like from their hearts, like, hey, like hopefully this helps you have a better life,
totally, and
empower you. And I wasn't a good student, to be honest with you, just because like I don't know, I don't know.
Your vision or your spirit was probably felt maybe out of place and calling for something else. I don't know, but I had a similar situation, because like I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school, and my mom said like, what are you good at? And she looked at my grades. I was doing well in like English and media studies. So she actually like recommended that I go to like a media college, but all I wanted to do, dude, was play music. I was a musician. I wanted to play in rock bands. I wanted to tour. And I experienced the same thing that you kind of did with that doubt. People put that doubt in your mind, and I wanted to be a musician and tour. That was my dream, my vision. And I was getting talked out of it. There's no money in it. Only a certain type, certain people might get lucky and stuff like that. So I went through like similar stuff as well. So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah. So freshman year, we get, I mean, it's not even luck. I think at this point it's just set up. Look, especially looking back on my life, I see where where I believed and had faith in something, and then everything shaped, every circumstance that happened forward in my life shaped its way around that thing being able to be at least one more breadcrumb, if nothing else. Like, it was definitely not a clear shot to the finish line, but it would at least show me like 3 breadcrumbs down, right? So there's this thing called Campus Movie Fest. Had never touched a camera really. I mean, maybe like on vacation with my family, but like nothing serious. And our college had this thing called Campus Movie Fest. They would give you a camera, a computer, and you would have a week to make a short film. Me and my best friend made one, and we chose to make a comedy. And we had probably the best time of our college career thus far at that moment, that week, because like we were just laughing the whole week because we were trying to make a comedy.
Yeah.
The funny part is that it sucked and it didn't get shown, and obviously like we didn't know what we were doing. It was terrible. But
the time of your life.
And we fell in love with the process.
That's dope.
And right around that time, the Canon 5D came out, which was this like revolutionary camera at the time, where it was actually it was like a consumer product that would give you really, really nice video quality. And it was like $5,000 like for the whole kit, which was like revolutionary back then. For filmmaking, for video. And once again, like if I really look back at it, the situations were set up for me. I couldn't have up to the point where like my best friend's dad, who is the guy that I make the short film with, his dad is the dean of photography at Indiana University. So I'm over it, and this is like my best friend since I was 5 years old. So I met him. We moved to Indiana. I meet him at a YMCA soccer league. From 5 years old through college, best friends, right? Then we start to make films. We make the first film. Then I see an ad for the 5D. Then I'm at dinner at his dad's house and mom's house, and I see the 5D sitting on the table. And I'm like, yo, Ben, that's the camera that I showed you in that thing. And we asked his dad about it. We're like, hey, like, you use that? Like, do you know how to use that? And his dad's like, oh, no, like, I only shoot real film. Like, he's a purist, like a film photographer. He's just like, oh, no, I haven't, like, the school gave me that. It's this new digital da-da-da-da, but, like, he's like, kind of like, I'm supposed to test it.
No way.
It's like one of those things. So about a week later, my mind is racing, and I'm thinking, one of my friends from high school is making music. Let me hit him up and see if we can make like a little studio video.
That's cool.
His dad lets us borrow the camera. We make the studio video. Next weekend, another one of my best friends from soccer too, he made this a cappella group in our college, and it was called Straight No Chaser, which ended up being massive. Like, but they get hired to sing the halftime show at the Colts game, which is an NFL pro football game, which is massive in Indiana.
Damn.
Peyton Manning, like in the era, you know, they get invited to sing the halftime show.
That's wild.
And this was huge for me because we all got to go to Indianapolis. We stayed at a house. We hung out. We partied. The next day they performed at the show. Families and friends, like we were all together. They got all of us tickets to the show, but because I had that camera, I got to go on the field.
Oh, that's killer, dude.
And I shot, so after that I was like, whoa, this camera can get us in places. I told Ben, I was like, yo, like this thing could be like, this could really get us in the door at certain spots. And then we had about like, I may be like, it's been 15 years, so I may be like, things might have happened in a different chronological order slightly, but long story short, we end up using that 5D and we just start collaborating with musicians in our town in Bloomington, Indiana. It's one of the top music schools, so there's like some cool stuff. Like, honestly, one of the bands that we made their first music video, they're called The Main Squeeze, is now a massive touring band, like this jam band. Like,
nice.
So it's cool that like everybody grew, but I guess at that time we started to fall in love with like, I started to personally fall in love with the idea of like me and some friends could have an idea, create it, and then it would reach tons of people. And we had this one early on. So right after that, we made this, like that same friend that I did that first studio video with, he remixed the school fight song, put like a drum beat and rapped on it.
Nice.
And then we made a music video with like all the key things that everybody that ever went to Indiana University would like, just nostalgia, right?
Gotcha.
We put that thing out early on in Facebook. We wake up and it has 500,000 plays overnight, bro. And then it just, people start calling us, hitting us up. And we're
talk about going viral.
Yeah, in the start of viral. Like that was like, and people are hitting us up like, yo, like offering us like different things. My friend hand drew a t-shirt that said, it said, "This is Indiana." Hand drawn. We start selling them, bro. Like everything's blowing up. About 2 months into that. Yeah, about 2 months into that. You need a drink? Or,
No, you could carry on.
Yeah. About 2 months into that, the school hits us up and they send us a cease and desist. They're like, "Hey, you can't sell these shirts." For
the logo, or
but
was it
bro,
the name?
no, bro. So this is the crazy part. The school played us, bro. They took advantage of us not knowing what's going on. So we get a cease and desist. We don't know what like we're just kids, bro. We're freshmen. Like,
damn, that's crazy.
And
I could imagine if you were like using like a licensed like logo, or something like that, or the name.
No, but like if we would have known the actual legalities, then we could have for sure like stood up for ourselves. But since we don't know anything, we're just kids. They come at us with that, and then, oh, but by the way, we can work on this together. And they offer like, basically they end up taking a large portion of the profits.
I gotcha.
But they put it in all of the like bookstores. They end up wrapping all the school buses with my friend's face on it.
Right.
Like, so there was like cool give back, but like they definitely kind of stole our like our like thing. But in a way, like we took their culture they created.
Yeah.
It's all, you know like,
it's a win for everybody. Even if your credit got diluted a little bit, it sounds like a good win for everyone.
Once again, like looking at it how I look at life now, that's more valuable than if I would have kept the money, because I learned how to protect myself in other situations further down the line. Not that like, I think that's part of growth. You got to get burnt here and there, and it's totally okay. Like there's no like, once again, if you can remove your ego out of it, then you don't even trip. Like you just messed up. Now you grow, you get better. So let me fast forward, because I'm almost telling the story too slow. So that happens, and from that video, a country singer from the town hits me up and he's like, "Hey man, like I saw the This Is Indiana video. Like I got a song called Summer Sun, and it's gonna be on GAC CMT. Like, can you come down? Like, let's shoot it together. We're gonna go down to Key West." I'm like, all right, cool. Like spring break's coming up. So we get paid $5,000 to go on a spring break trip with this country singer. It ends up being like incredibly fun, but like the least like professional type setup ever. Like we end up going to Nashville, picking up a van with him, and then we're driving in a van with the artist all the way to Florida. Then we finish the thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, like you guys got to drive the van back." Like, whatever. Regardless of all of that, it was just, we had an incredible time. And on the drive back, we're running out of gas money, bro. Like we're running out of, because he hadn't paid.
I've been there back in my touring days.
Yeah, he hadn't paid us yet or anything. Like we were just like, so on the drive back up, my account hits 0, Ben's account hits 0, and we're probably like 5 hours away.
Call the school.
Honestly, we call Ben's dad, and Ben's dad like transfers some money over to Ben, and we just get home gas. But for some reason, listen to how crazy we are. We stop to call the dad at a gas station, and there's like, I don't remember what, it could have been a Wendy's, it could have been I don't know. It was just one of those gas stations. We get something to eat. We're waiting there for the money to transfer so we could get gas.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there waiting, and for some reason, we're naive enough to, we're like, oh, if we just get to LA, we can become directors. we're like, look, and we can make a living, $5,000, da da da. Bro, we just ran out of money. Like, we should have been like, what,
Nothing
you know?
to lose.
But for some reason, we're sitting at that table, me and Ben, we're like, oh yeah, like if we just, like, we can become directors. So for some reason, that's in our head. And yeah, I'm gonna fast forward to like the end of that year. And New Year's, we tell my parents and his parents, hey, we have a friend out here that'll let us crash on his couch.
Mm-hmm.
And
just gonna take the chance.
Yeah,
just like we got nothing to lose. Let's just go out to LA and just
we know that we love making, and we know that we've been able to make something that connected, and we know that like we have something.
Yeah,
because like people are giving us attention, like in our town, which is, you know, still very naive to think about now, because like whatever, LA is a whole different beast.
It is.
You know,
you don't know that till you get here.
Yeah,
it's just one of them.
Like,
It sounded like you had a little bit of a portfolio, though, at least to go by coming out here, which is something to show.
Yeah, and like, I guess I was down. Like I was pitching for commercials for Pretzel Crisp. I was more brave about like, yo, we're just going to go do this and that. And then I would be like the one that would pick up the phone and just call potential clients. At the time, Ben was more timid. He was even scared to get on calls with clients. And I was like, bro, if you can't even talk to the client on the phone, like how are we, you know? And that was like, I only tell that part because when we told our parents that we were going to come out here, I told my mom, and she was like, what are you talking about? You don't know anyone in LA. What are you going to do in LA? Like, you're crazy. Like, no, that's like, you know? And then I'm a little bummed. I go later that day and I tell Ben, I was like, man, like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, my mom said no. Like, she doesn't see it. And he was like, bro, let's just go. It's 3 months. What are we going to lose? And I was like, Ben's saying that, who's like usually the more timid one. Like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, so something about that moment was so huge for us because he needed to step into that. And that's the beauty of like just life in general. It'll position the people just right for you to continue.
I feel like a lot of people do that as well. Like LA, once you've got a taste of it, you know, and it can be a hard city to come into and make something of yourself. You know, everything takes time, but this can be like a tough city to crack. I did a similar thing. Like I came out to LA, funny enough, like I've been out here like a couple times. Oh yeah, we go.
Not bad.
Fix it up, beautiful. Like the local ghost is just going around. Yeah, a lot of people do. I came out here as a musician. I got a little taste of it. I was a touring musician in my 20s. Long story short, I went out on tour with a local LA band, and one of the bass players, we hit it off, and he said, dude, after the tour in the summer, come out to LA, you can crash with me, like it's cool. So I was like 21 after a tour, came out here for 3 weeks, and like just like got that taste of LA, the vibe. And I was like, from then I was like, man, LA like feels like my kind of spot. And being a musician as well, you know, Hollywood's always had like a pretty good like music scene, and a lot of the record labels were here, and you know, LA bands have always like had like a really good like push. I think if you're good enough, a lot of great bands come out of LA. So for me, that was like the motivation to come to Hollywood, give it a shot, whether like you make it or not. At least you can say you took that chance and you came out. And you know, for a lot of years previous to that, I sat around like talking about it to myself, like, man, I really wish I was in LA. I wish I could make it work. And I just got to the point where I literally just had to be like, dude, like, let's stop talking about it and let's, you know, take these thoughts into actual action, make the plan and go. And same as you, I didn't really know anyone out here, but I knew enough people. Same scenario. Someone was like, hey, if you want to crash on my couch. They were students at MI at the time. And they were like, yeah, you know, we've got like about 3 months left in the semester, and then like we're done and graduated. But if you want to crash with us for the time we're still in school and living here, you can. So I did that. Super grateful to those guys. Yeah, that was like my start in LA. Came out, couch surfed. Thankfully had a job coming out here. That was a really positive. I transferred with a company, which was nice. So I didn't come out here like completely kind of stranded with like, man, I need to hustle to make like an income and stuff. So I was fortunate enough to be able to like have a pretty smooth, you know, slate coming out. But, you know, like I said, it's like it can be a tough city to crack. But I've been here like 11 years now, and I've seen so much growth. Like, you know, you roll with the punches, you ride the waves. I really believe you can have your good days and bad days anywhere. But LA's been a place where I've felt like I'm meant to be here. I think I'm always striving towards like my purpose, you know. But yeah, I'm so just happy to be in LA because it's allowed me to grow in such a positive way. You know, it's literally brought me to like this point right now where I decided I'm going to host a podcast, just like not overthink it. Like, let's just do it. Let's connect, you know, let's let people share their story, inspire, and then like obviously like connect and maybe build like a bit of a community out of it. But dude, man, thanks for like sharing. I'm almost just going to ask you like a couple of questions, like, you know, the experiences that you've had that, you know, were kind of key in like developing you and shaping you into like the person you are today. Like, I know you mentioned like, you know, you were, you know, really kind of into like soccer and stuff, and you wanted to, you know, be able to like maybe like be a pro soccer player or something. I know you're doing something now with like a soccer team or a kid's soccer team. Like, it's interesting how like maybe the timing wasn't right for you to succeed there because the universe, God, had another role for you, but keeping you in that kind of sport and interest. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and some of the stuff you have going on right now?
Yeah. So I guess the question was just paint a little light on just kind of what's going on now, and maybe or what was the first part of the question? Like,
just 'cause I know you
what were
mentioned-
some things that kind of like shaped?
Yeah, I know you mentioned something about like when you were in like college, I think, and you really wanted to like, I guess like pursue like a career.
Yeah,
in
but that wasn't
soccer.
even in college. That was my whole life.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, my whole youth is deeply rooted in the sport, and I think the character development that happens with the sport is priceless. Like, I learned how to be a good friend, how to be a teammate. I learned how to be a good employee. I learned how to be coachable. I learned how to be a good leader. I was the captain. I think the most important one though is I learned how to dream. I would go to the field every day with nothing promised, like, and just put in time into whatever I love to do, which I think is the most detrimental thing for any human to stop doing is what they love to do, and what drives them with free energy instead of having to borrow energy from things, right? So yeah, that the sport itself just, it was, I don't even think I know that we are really here to play. Like, we take things really serious. But at the end of the day, I think that's why my connection to that sport is so powerful, is because it's true flow state, true play, true. It's a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. It's the same thing as art. It's an art form, if you ask me.
Definitely.
And I think nowadays, as everything becomes digital, and like obviously being in the entertainment industry for 15 years, I've been able to see not only the strategy, but the amount of work and strategy that goes into things that on the outside seem like they just blew up or they just happened. So I think being able to have both scopes within me, the scope of how powerful the sport could be and just liberating your soul, and the scope of how much people put into the messaging. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, having worked in the entertainment industry, I had an inside look at what goes into releases. And what that did for me is understand that this future generation is going to need a bridge to understand that this stuff that they're consuming is getting created very quickly, but also it's getting created to make them feel like they need whatever it is that's happening, right? Mm-hmm. So as I'm observing the beauties of the internet, I'm also observing the darkness of the internet.
Yeah.
And as 2020 happens, pandemic, we're coming out of pandemic. There's all talk about metaverse and digital and everything, right? And it just inspired me to create a project that moved with the innovation but against the grain. So what I mean by that is, if the metaverse is going to exist and if digital everything is going to exist, I'm going to build a project within those inner workings so that the future also has what built my character, which is that sport. So I built a project called the Immortals Project, which is a community-based nonprofit, scholarships. Money will never be the thing that keeps the kid out. We live in a culture that everything's pay to play. Mm-hmm. So I just saw a huge opportunity to infuse artistry into the sport, but also create something because I love it. And I knew that would give me a huge edge, and it would allow me to move in ways that nobody else is going to be able to move, because God had already instilled this structure in my life where my livelihood was coming from my creative output and my services. So I had this other output over here where I knew I could just freely give to the youth and to that young version of me to hopefully inspire that next generation. And through that, I don't think I've done anything in my life that's expanded me as much as that project.
Dude, that's killer. I think that's so intelligent as well. What you said about, existing in like the metaverse and as things like develop, keeping yourself relevant, but also, we're in a time where certain like jobs and occupations and roles, they're not necessarily becoming outdated, but just not necessarily needed by companies. Also in an economy and time where maybe budgets are tighter, maybe certain people are getting laid off, different roles are being, revoked or whatever. And keeping up with technological advancements, or keeping up with, the evolution of just like everything. So if you have a way to stay relevant and exist within that, it's going to stop you from, almost not becoming like extinct, but fading out as things evolve. So that's smart.
Yeah, but that's not even trying to be smart. That's like, you're going to have to pay your dues. and there's going to be innovation every year, if not every other year. So whenever you feel like you're too comfortable to keep learning, that's where you'll start to slowly detract yourself from how impactful you could be on situations. So for me, I don't mind putting in the work and learning the tools. So you talk about cryptocurrency, you talk about NFTs, you talk about AI, you talk about any of these things that might scare people. That doesn't scare me at all. I'm going to go learn it.
Yeah.
It's right there. Like, why wouldn't you empower yourself? It's
Totally.
free tech. It's free technology. It's free. All the information's out there for you to learn. Like, consume that instead of consuming the fear-based thing where like jobs are, it's like, no, now there's a new job that you can actually work. So I think that's a huge element too, where it's like, look at everything as working in your most ultimate favor. Look at everything as being the thing that's going to take you to that next step that you want. I'm telling you, pandemic happened, and I don't know what it is about me, but even back then, I said, this is going to open up the greatest door that I've ever had in my life. Like, this opportunity, everybody else is going to be scared. I'm not. Something good is going to happen for me. And if you could just frame your mind to know that whatever it is, it could be the hardest thing that you've dealt with in your life.
Yeah.
If you could somehow switch that to know that that's in your favor, you're going to enjoy the hardship. And that's actually what we're here for. Like, can you enjoy your journey?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, dude, because if you know that you have something to work towards, even if you don't quite know what the end outcome is going to be, that consistency, like in those moments of just working towards something, there's a lot of power and discipline in that, for sure. That's awesome, dude. Other than the Immortals projects, I know you've got like a couple other really great like creative things going on. Tell us like a little bit about the physical art department, and then also if you want to touch on the music promotion.
Yeah. So I think what I'm realizing more and more is that art, sports, expression in general is here to help us navigate life. And what I mean by that is it helps us internalize and go through challenges doing things that we love. And education is a process of developing from within. So what I'm aspiring to create and put into the world is education that aspires to allow the individual to develop from within. And if I create environments like that for humans, it's going to allow them to help themselves, and it's going to allow them to find methods of self-healing and self-development. And it's this huge thing that I see where like everything takes your power away. Everything is trying to sell you something and have you reach for an external solution. And I feel like that's why that's why a lot of people feel crippled, because everything points to an exterior solution for you, right? And what I'm trying to create is one, education through things that we love, because I know that I've only found the small success that I've found through being able to outwork everybody because I'm not working. I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's the most cliche thing that everybody says, but like, no one's gonna like, you see me, like, my capacity for output is on a different sort of realm, right?
Absolutely, dude. You're a very inspiring being, for sure. And you have such a great, humble attitude. I see your approach, and that's why I wanted to talk to you and get to know you a little better and hear about you. Because like, I wouldn't say I'm an over complimentative person, but I am very big on, show credit or give credit where credit is deserved. And when I see people like making things happen, doing stuff, working hard, putting in the ethic and the hours and the work, how can you not recognize that? And like, I can truly say you're somebody that does that, and it's a very, very inspiring. So just thank you for you being you. Like,
No, thank you.
Like, truly do. But sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
like,
no.
jump in.
No, I appreciate that big time. And I think like a very important, important, a great concept that I personally love that's helped me a lot is the idea of importance. And there's two types of importance. There's self-importance and there's outer importance. Self-importance, how much importance do you put on yourself? So outer importance, how much importance do you put on situations outside of you? So let me give you what I mean by that. Inner importance. Man, without me, this whole project is gone down the drain.
Yeah.
You know how many times I've had that sort of thought? At least a handful, right? Do you think any of those projects still exist that I really truly allowed for a feeling, even or a relationship? All of those gone, right? Now, outer importance. Man, if I mess up the shoot, my whole career is done. Like this is my big chance. Like this is my big break. Like if I mess this one up, this is my big. So much outer importance. So the concept that I want to push here is, can you leave both of those at zero somehow? Because as soon as you start to put too much importance on yourself, like I said, without me, this whole thing is done. There's a natural force that comes in to teach you lessons. And that's a balancing force. So as soon as you start to give yourself a little bit too much importance in a situation, you better believe the reaction is a balancing force coming to teach you that lesson.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as you put too much importance on that outside thing, that shoot, that balancing force is going to come and test you on that day of the shoot, and it's going to teach you that you're going to be okay without that, you know? So can you navigate in a space where you're not too big for anything, you're not too important for anything,
Yeah.
and nothing is too important for you, right? So you're as big as you need to be, and you're as small as you need to be.
Yeah.
And that's just because in life, like a lot of times we get confused and we think we need balance.
Yeah.
50-50.
Totally.
But nature, we're part of nature.
Yeah.
And if you observe that, nature works off of harmony.
Right.
Something's going to give a little bit less and something's going to give a little bit more, and they're going to find that happy medium.
Little give and take.
Give and take.
Yeah.
So if we search for harmony, it's going to give us a better chance at, you know what I'm saying? Finding happy. And that's for you to internalize and say, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to give way more than I receive because God built me like that. You know, like, and as simple as that. Like, tell yourself these dynamics. Like, instead of telling yourself, like, man, I keep giving all my best ideas and everybody takes me for granted. You know what I'm saying? You could also build that psyche into yourself. But it's like, no, like, I'm able to give to everybody whether something comes back of it because that's how God built me.
Yeah. I do believe as well, if you operate from a place of just honesty and good intent and truth, it might not be instant karma and reward, but you're planting the seeds and in time you will see that come back to you for sure. So that's something I've learned, like reading a lot of like spiritual literature as well and being on a spiritual path. But you know, like the energy like you put in, you know, will be kind of like like a boomerang essentially. And then something you mentioned earlier was like, you know, detaching the ego from things too. So that's something like I learned to do like a long time ago, and it really kind of settled me down. But I wanted to ask you, like, do you think there's like maybe a healthy sort of ego that you need to have as a creative that maybe, you know, assists in?
Well, it's not ego. It's importance. So if no situation's too big for me, what more confidence do you need? What more ego do you need?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can find that balance, because I think it might take years to land to a point where you feel it and it's honest to you, but you can slowly direct your way towards feeling like that.
Yeah.
Nothing happens with just like, I want this, and you know what I'm saying? Everything is gradual. Yeah, I don't know if that.
Maybe just like I said, just putting your pure truth and intent into what you're doing, and then that's what's going to bring out the results, really.
Yeah, well, look, I saw this thing too where it's like, if you try to change your situation on the physical plane, on the already manifested plane,
Yeah.
you're going to have a really hard time. You need to change things in the mental plane.
Yeah.
And try to understand how you got this thing to even get here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's
the power of manifestation right there. And I knew you were going to say mental. I thought you were going to say mental or spiritual, but in one of those like planes for sure. That just goes to show as well how powerful our thoughts are, that we can create all this. Because I decided like a year ago, last year, I want to do a podcast. I just needed the right timing, the right, like environment, and just the right maybe motivation and inspiration, but more than anything, just to feel ready to be able to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah.
It took a little bit of time, but I planted that seed, over a year ago, manifested it, bang.
It's here.
Here we are.
I mean, there's a book called Siddhartha, and it's kind of like, it's similar to
Is it based on the Buddha?
Yeah.
It's about the Buddha?
Yeah. And basically, like at the beginning, basically at the beginning, his quote unquote strengths in life, as he says, he can fast, he can meditate, and he has patience. And it was interesting because like, you're like, wait, what is he talking about? And then he explained it as, well, I can wait longer because I don't need food. So I'm going to be able to actually wait for what's for me. Mm-hmm. Patience is part of that.
Yeah.
And meditating, being able to remain focused on what you desire. So it's like, it's this really interesting dynamic there where like, sometimes power and like it's just like an infinite, like each dynamic is going to kind of give you a different source of potent energy depending on what it is. And obviously like he goes on and ends up becoming a huge merchant and like has a lot, like he lives kind of different lives and gets to a point where he's like, man, if I could just have that patience and be able to fast, because he gave into his comforts when he became a merchant, right? So sometimes we don't understand how maybe like when we were going through that hardship, maybe we had certain dynamics that allowed us to navigate.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that resonates, because I've done a lot of like yoga and meditation and things like that, and I've literally gone through different programs at Isha Foundation, which you might know, the quite popular guru, Sadhguru. I've done a lot of his like different courses and programs, and like the yogis, it's a disciplined practice to fast, because what it does is it's like a cleanse and purification for the system as well. And then meditation, it allows you to like tap into almost like other realms, really, and the downloads that you can get and the information and the inspiration by doing these practices that, like you mentioned, they're very powerful and beneficial, especially for creatives.
And I think the breakthrough happens when from those practices, you start to be able to grab control of the energy that you put out daily. And I think that's what I've noticed this past year and a half, probably a year, to be honest, that I'm like super, super sharp on, where it's like I'm going to control and I'm going to attract with my magnet what I want in my life. And I've been seeing it just come back to me. And it's this thing. It does take a little bit of discipline, but it's been feeling really, really nice to actually, be at ease.
That's cool, dude. That's so funny, because I was literally going to ask you, like, since we're getting towards like the end of the interview and stuff, like, where do you feel like you're at now, you know, in yourself and with your I know your vision, your work, like anything you want to share?
Yeah, I want to keep pushing myself to create ways to help others heal, through art, through experience, through community. And on a personal level, I want to keep pushing myself to do those projects that scare me, because once again, where that fear is there, and maybe in the past I would have been like, you know, what I'm really pushing towards next is I'm gonna make my feature film called Happiness Forgets, and you know, I wrote that 2017. That's almost 8 years, you know? Yeah. And I think part of my growth has been understanding and taking ownership in the fact that some of my beliefs on the industry and on money and on the dynamics of selling a project are skewed, and they're not working in my favor. So as I'm challenging myself daily to further empower my self-belief, and understand that that's right there for me, because I wrote something that's pure, honest. I've watched this movie in my head probably 100 times, and this thing hits, bro. I'm telling you, it's a classic. So as I shift my fear into love of this project, I'm already like,
it sounds like the foundation. You've got the right foundation, and I can see it in your face and your energy that like you're obviously enthusiastic about it. There's no chance this can fail.
I can't. And then that's this new thing where I'm like, that's silly, me thinking that I could mess up what God's got for me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's actual ego right there. So can I eliminate that thing? Because I already know, like, the things are right there for me if I'm willing to accept that this is for me. Nothing like that's the breakthrough. In the past, I might have blamed it on an industry that only funds dark, non-inspirational, non-coming of age stories, like you know, and create this whole narrative in my head. But that's not true, because my project is going to get funded and it's going to reach people, and I'm going to get to make it how I wanted to make it, because that's what I believe, you know. And I can only now see that I'm not trying to just make a movie. I'm going to make this piece because I know it is what had been pulled out of me for purpose, bro. Like, while I was writing this thing, like, I didn't do anything but try to infuse like the most real, raw stories that I lived through. So I know that this has a purpose for the world, and it has nothing to do with me. It just has to do with the human story and how it can impact other humans.
That's killer, dude.
You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that every like thing that you are kind of like doing in terms of like an artistic thing, it really feels like it's an actual extension of you, and it has like a lot of personality. So everything you're doing is almost like a direct extension of like who you are, and a very good representation of either your skill set, your creativity, or who Harvey is.
No, thank you, bro. I think I'm just allowing myself to be a vessel, and I'm finally getting out of the way. I've been able to do cool stuff in the past, but the coolest had been when I got out of my way, and I can kind of observe that from the past too, you know. So now going forward on this, like, I just tell myself I can't mess this up. Like, this is yeah, there's work, there's powers at hand that like
Yeah, sometimes you
I
just
got
gotta.
I got nothing to you know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't mess it up if I tried. The only way that I mess this up is if I think that I have the best way to make this, and I don't. I just know that I'm supposed to make this.
That's killer, dude.
You know?
That's killer.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. Just to give like an example, I got a real ego check being a musician in those situations because I was like a soul songwriter and I had a band like back in the day, and I just wrote all the songs, and I gave the songs to a producer one time, and I was like, yeah, I want to re-record these. These are just demo tracks. He's like, cool. Well, he heard something a little different, and one night I was out at dinner in West Hollywood, and he sent me like a take of the track. He's like, hey, I just want you to hear this. Let me know if you don't like it. It's cool, but I just want you to hear it. And he had completely kind of resectioned and rewrote one of my songs, but it sounded a hell of a lot better. And I was like, damn, like this really is a learning curve for me. This is teaching me that sometimes you've got to be a little open, not really necessarily like surrendered, but just open to having like other input, and that maybe like I should just detach a little bit from thinking that my way is the best way, because like sometimes you know, like when you do kind of co-create with people, that's when like a real magic like can happen, or someone has like a slightly different eye and ear. So I got like a little bit of an ego check in my music career, and from that day I always left myself a little more open to, okay, let's see what someone else might be able to bring to the table. And I like that, because I feel like there's kind of a power in that co-creation like as well.
Yeah, no, that's a superpower. I always say I don't want to be right, I want to win.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's like us. It's a team sport. I learned that from soccer too. I know that the left back's gonna do what the left back does. The center back's the goalkeeper's never gonna do what the forward does.
Yeah.
So can I observe a situation and allow each person to be their greatest self? And like I said, I would rather be wrong about the way that it should be lit or the blocking, or I would rather win. I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with somebody on, like, that's how I've built up the environment in my sets. It's a collaborative effort. And that's why I want to make movies, because it's the most collaborative art form that exists. And I think I am a human that can navigate that sort of collaboration.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
I'll be excited to see when the time is right.
Yeah.
You know, that final product as well.
Yeah.
If you want to plug and promote anything, now's like a perfect time, whether it's your IG handle, anything you're doing with the, you know, all the creative stuff. So feel free to give like a little plug to the watchers and listeners.
Yeah.
If they want to check you out.
Yeah. So I would say check out, so I have 3 projects that I'm really excited about right now. The first one is the Immortals Project, which is the soccer nonprofit that I mentioned, and that's at Immortals Football Club. I have unreleased.art, which is an innovation on the way that music is released and shared for musicians, so that they can have an equitable part in the business. And the third element is Physical Art Department, which is an art school / market that's a little infant, and it's honestly becoming and taking shape here at Lighthouse. And it's been awesome because it's not only a way for members to connect, but it's also a way for me to be able to showcase some of these amazing humans that are in the building.
That's killer, dude. And I can like say firsthand, you're doing more than just turning heads with what you're doing here. So thank you for what you are bringing to the Lighthouse as well.
Thank you, bro.
Because like, yeah, it's phenomenal, dude. Let's end on this. Do you have like a message that you'd want to share with, you know, like the community, the listeners, anyone connected to the show? Just a personal message from yourself.
Man,
No pressure.
yeah, no, I definitely, I think I'll just some heartfelt. Some heartfelt would be follow. Something to leave the people with would be follow your visions, follow your gut feelings. Anytime that you feel fear towards accomplishing those, infuse the love you have for it, and try to, anytime fear thoughts come up, sprinkle a little bit of why you love that thing, and fight and go and go and go until it becomes something that feels true to you and natural to you, through the process of you paying your dues. Don't think something's going to just happen because you desire it with the snap of a finger. Even if you desired a farm of fruit, if the farm of fruit is in front of you, you're still going to have to get out of the truck and pick the fruit, and there's going to be action that you're going to have to take. So focus your thoughts on what you want. As soon as somebody comes in and tries to prove why you can't do that, run twice as fast towards it.
Yeah.
And try to infuse love where that person put in fear. And lean on the people around you, support the people around you, because that's where the miracles are going to come. Somebody's going to say something that'll spark something. Somebody's going to open up a door for you. It's all in the interconnectedness of us as humans. Work with people, push yourself, believe in what you want to do. The rest is taken care of.
Dude, beautiful, beautiful. It's been an absolute pleasure, dude, to have you on My Story Unveiled. Thank you so much, brother. So much, man. And let's do a check-in in a few months and get you back on, and you can let us know where you're at and how everything's been, with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to hop on whenever, man. I appreciate you big time.
Killer.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much.
Man.
This has been Xavi Sotomayor, everybody. Yes, thanks for tuning in.
Peace. Thank you.
Hey guys, if you liked this episode of My Story Unveiled, make sure to give us a like, give us a follow, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Peace.